intentionally made use of Darlie's market reputation. But Whiteman said that the advertisement was only produced by the hypermarket 大广山 in Taichung. Also, the volume sellers placed the two products together for the convenience of customers to shop. So what Darlie claimed is nothing to do with Whiteman's intention. Darlie cannot find any evidence that Whiteman was involved in the advertisement. So this part, Whiteman also wins. For the final judgment, Whiteman rejects its trademark in 1987. It's over 20 years. So Whiteman developed its own reputation. Moreover, there are lots of toothpaste in the market, so it's not necessary to say that what sales that Darlie losing is all caused by Whiteman. And most importantly, why did not Darlie accuse Whiteman right at the beginning of its hit the shelves? Darlie let his rights fall asleep, and our Lord does not protect those who make his rights fall asleep. So Darlie lose the trademark battle in Taiwan.
You, Taiwan's judge, unfair, and will fight China's judge.
Darlie lost the trademark battle in Taiwan, but Darlie won the trademark battle in China. The most important thing is that Darlie registers Whiteman's trademark, including brand name, Whiteman, and also the package. Why? Why does Darlie do this? Because Darlie afraid that Whiteman will compete their market in China. And the reason why Darlie won the lawsuit in China is that if you register your market out of China, the trademark won't be protected. So Darlie can register Whiteman's trademark.
Okay, so this is all of the case between the Darlie and Whiteman. And let me give you some case comparison. And this is four cases we learned until now. And the first one is Moxley and Yahoo and iPhone and IF. And our topic, Darlie and Whiteman. And we can see that why the company want to sue another. It is all because that the both two names are competitive and make people get confused. So these two big points is why they have the trademark battle. Okay, so let's recall some memories. The first one, McDonald's sued Moxley, and the commercial area is different because the McDonald's is a fast restroom and the Moxley is a hotel, so they don't have competitive relationship. And the second argument is because the language. It is also the very important point why McDonald's wins this case, because the judge thinks that McDonald's has created language, and the Mc is the different. It has the second meaning. It means they are fast and clean, and the different meaning. So the judge thinks that Mc language is too famous. So Quality Inc. can use Mac as their brand name. Okay, and the second is the company Apple, iPhone, and Apple has a very famous product, iPhone, and in Mexico there is another company means iPhone. The pronunciation is totally same. So the American iPhone think that IF is want to make good use of their reputation. And the commercial area is also the commercial area of both are the telecommunication. But why iPhone lost this case is because the registration time. Because in Mexico, IF regists the IFONE first. So that if American iPhone want to let their famous products and can Darlie to IF company. Okay, so in this case, Apple lost the lawsuit, and next we has American Yahoo and China Yahoo, and both of them are rejected in class 9, but American Yahoo rejects the computer software, and the Yahoo rejects in television and semiconductor. But the important point is also the registration time, because in China, when you register your trademark, you have the right to use that. And the Yahoo rejects the Yahoo, these two words first, so that they have right to continue use Yahoo two words. Okay. So and about our case, because Darlie and Whiteman are both two past company, they have very competitive relationship. So Darlie want to accuse Whiteman so that Whiteman cannot sell in the same market. And the argument also about their package. The package is very similar, and also the name, Byron and Hayden, they have the only one word different. But in this case, Darlie lost because the most important point is that why Darlie accused Whiteman after 11 years. Okay, so we have a discussion. The first one is if Darlie sues Whiteman earlier, do you think that the judgment will be different? So if Darlie sues Whiteman when Whiteman rejects his brand name, do you think that the judgment will be different? And the second is that although Whiteman won the lawsuit, do you still think that Whiteman intentionally used the trademark Whiteman to gain the popularity in the beginning? Okay, so this is two questions for you to discuss. Okay, so after your discussion, each group can send one people to come to here to share your opinion with us. Okay.
Would you like us to discuss your questions first, or would you like to hear the responses from our two special guests? Okay, so which guest? Okay, Michael. Michael has also provided a slide this time, so it's easier for you to follow. Last time the words were too small. This time you should be able to see it clearly right here.
Okay. First of all, good job. That was very, very entertaining. So again, like I said last week, how I kind of viewed this as I was like coming in is definitely from the perspective of like debate. So basically, whatever you tell me during the debate is what I'll take in. But this time, I also like considered some like additional thoughts to give you guys as you guys are going into your discussion. So anyway, so first of all, as I was like looking through the arguments, I basically went through and looked at the arguments that were like, okay, Darlie said this, but then Whiteman said this. Okay, those cancel out. So for example, like the packaging, like all toothpaste is packed in 2 boys. Okay, that's not really relevant. So no side really gains any points. So it's like, okay, that's not really important. Brush that aside. Next thing, the slogan. I didn't really understand the arguments when I read the PowerPoint, but after hearing you guys like talk about it a little, it made a little more sense. And it really doesn't seem like the advertisement makes that huge of a deal, at least not the way that the prosecution kind of presented it. And so in that way, it wasn't really like, I didn't really see it as the strongest argument that the prosecution could come up with, because it was kind of like, well, it was an advertising agency that they weren't really in charge of. So they could have tied things there, but like they didn't. So we'll just like, that's like brushed aside. And lastly, the survey, it's biased. Obviously, you can't really use it, but like Whiteman doesn't really gain any points either. It's just like, it's bad evidence. So that moves us to the real arguments, which were really all in, which I really saw were all in the first point, which is the packaging and like the color and like what's associated with that. So, So the packaging is where it really all came out. And one of the contentions is color. Color is actually really, really important. Because when you look at, when you walk into a grocery store and you can't see any of the logos, what do you see? Color, right? So color is actually more universal than logos are, because even if I'm 50 feet away and there's a product at the door, I don't know what it could be. Nike, it could be Adidas, I don't know, but I can see what color it is. And this is actually really important, because when you look at Barilla pasta, this is a really famous pasta that's sold in the United States and a lot of other places. And Barilla actually owns 70% of the pasta market around there in the United States. And because they're so successful, other companies started using their color, this blue. They started using blue packaging and sold their products like that. And Barilla actually sued these other companies, and now they have a copyright on a range of blue color. So they actually own, in the pasta market, the right to this blue color. And so actually color is more important than we may actually think it is, because in some cases, like in the case of Barilla pasta, they were actually able to win a lawsuit based on color. And additionally, black and white are natural contrasts. So when you talk about, oh, you had 绿人牙膏 or 黑妹牙膏, like, yeah, those are kind of relevant, but black and white, because they are direct contrast, makes it especially relevant. That is why you can't just say, oh, well, there's other things. But because they're direct contrast, it makes it more important to consider. But what is actually important here, though, is tied to the design over time, which the defense kind of showed with the different colors of 黑人牙膏 over time. They had all kinds of different colors, from white to blue to pink and stuff. And that's actually really important, because you could say, oh yeah, color is important, but if color is important, why do they have so many different colors? Now the real question hinges on what color was Darlie's toothpaste when Whiteman came out. Because Darlie's been around for a while, so they can change their packaging and stuff. But what color was it when Whiteman came out? Was it the same color? And if it was, then there's a much stronger case on Darlie's side to say, hey, look here, when we were big, we might have changed color and stuff, but we were blue and we were green and yellow and white. When Whiteman came out, they're obviously trying to copy us. So actually, what we have here is like more information that actually could have been gathered that I don't know because it wasn't in the PowerPoint. But this is actually a very important point, because whoever can win this argument also wins the color argument. So that would be like 2 strikes against either side, depending on how that goes. And the last very important point that I found was the time frame, which Darlie never ever addressed, which is, why did Darlie take 11 years to respond, to actually bring a lawsuit against Whiteman? And on the surface, it's like, well, yeah, like that's a knockout, drag out, like you guys win just based on that. Like, and I think the final decision was actually based on that. So this, if Darlie doesn't address this, Whiteman wins automatically. But the important thing is, were they aware of it? Because if you do say that Whiteman didn't advertise a lot, and maybe they started in Jai and just slowly worked up, and Darlie's been around for years and years and years. They're the huge company at the top, and they don't really care about this like young little company. They might not have even heard of them, right? That I don't know. But if they haven't, then it makes sense. And the immediate analogy I thought of was, if there's a thief stealing from my pantry, stealing from my food cupboard, he's like eating my food and he's like getting really, really fat. And like, I don't know about it for like the first 11 years. And then the 11th year I find him, I'm still gonna sue him. Like, I'm still gonna bring him to court. Just because I was unaware of it for the first 11 years doesn't mean that I don't have a right to sue him. So the question really is, when was Darlie aware of this infringement? Was it that Whiteman was so small that they didn't notice them, they didn't know they existed until recently? Or was it that they just chose not to like address them, in which case Whiteman would win? But if not, then it would seem that Darlie would have the advantage here. So really, depending on what additional information we have regarding those, especially those bottom 2 points, that can sway the entire case either way. So those are my thoughts. Yeah.
college. That's why he's so, you know, keen on putting these arguments together and pointing out which arguments can be canceled out, which are really strong arguments. Okay, now Linda, as a bilingual teacher, she has a different perspective.